Hello Android fanatics, my name is Erica and today I'll be doing a review of the Galaxy Nexus. Now, I have a couple things to say. I can't tell you how sick and tired I am of going onto YouTube and seeing the same old type of reviews over and over again where people just sit there with their little hands poking out little bits and parts of the screen where they don't actually tell you anything intelligent about the phone. I'm sure if you're coming onto YouTube and watching a review that you already know that it's got a 4.6-inch screen and that it's got an underclocked 1.2 gigahertz processor. It's so... Let's actually learn something. I'm going to do a real world review in which I talk about what it's like to hold it in your hand. You know, for female hand versus male hand, how it's going to fit in your pocket, how the screen looks because it's pen tile. A lot of people have certain feelings about pen tile displays. I'm going to tell you how the battery is. I'm going to tell you how to take good pictures. I'm going to tell you how to take bad pictures if you'd like. So let's actually learn something. That's kind of the point of reviews, isn't it? So first I want to talk about the ergonomics of the phone or how it feels in hand. And you can see that, you know, it's got that bent curved display and it's quite wide, a lot wider than phones that I'm used to, such as the Bionic. So if you have tiny hands, I definitely recommend getting a case because the only grippiness is really on the bottom. It's meant to sit flush with your palm, and that doesn't quite happen here. So I recommend either a silicone case for you small girls or guys of short stature and tiny hands or whatever, so that you don't drop it onto the floor because I'm sure it would probably break and then you would cry, and I would cry as well. One thing I can say is that people are concerned about the cheap plasticky feel of it. It's not bad, especially because it doesn't creak in any type of way. It's actually very solid, and I know that it's something that's going to last me for a long time. As far as the screen not being Gorilla Glass, which I'm sure that concern is more of a brand loyalty, they call it a reinforced glass, so I don't know really what that means, but so far, it's been only a day and a half, but I put this thing in my pocket. I hate screen protectors, and I haven't had any issues with it scratching. It looks great to me, so as far as you're not using diamond dust or make sure there's no sand in your pocket or you're not punching it or doing strange things that you're not supposed to, it should be fine. You know, I wouldn't really worry about it. But as far as the curved design, I would get something like a Zag skin, something that has a little bit of a give to it, because I know that as soon as they put some type of a screen protector on it, it's going to have a little bit of a lift. And in that case, you'll probably get dirt that's collecting under there, and that probably will scratch the phone. So, you know, it's kind of a catch-22. So, what does the phone actually look like in pocket? This is what it looks like in girl jeans. You see how it sticks out quite a bit? It's, you know, it's alright. It's not too bad. This is what it looks like in guy jeans. Whoop. This actually puts into perspective how small I actually am. I'm just at 5 feet flat, so I'm an itty bitty little 23-year-old, aren't I? Alright, so we are now shooting in 1080p with the camera, and I'm actually quite pleased with the camera, especially in macro mode, because it does really well with the color saturation. It picks up electronic noise very, very well. So for example, let's have you listen to a little bit of this annoyingness. Picks up high frequencies, no problem. It does pretty well in the focus as well, so yeah. The only thing that is that it's not that great at evaluative focus. So for example, I'm trying to just look at the little Santa toy here, and it does a pretty good job picking it out, except for sometimes if there's something in the way, it doesn't quite know what it's looking at, and you have no way to point and push on the screen to try to do a tap to focus. Nah, tap to focus, not working. Alright, here's a video in a little bit lower lighting. This is my Christmas tree. You can see that has a little bit of noise, and that the definition, it tends to be a little bit more soft at this time, but it's not that bad at all. I mean, it looks actually pretty nice, and so is the macro focus. Look at that. Okay, so we are in my backyard under heavy cloud cover, which is actually very favorable conditions, especially when filming. Now, a lot of people had a lot of complaints about the rolling shutter or maybe even the lack of image stabilization, but I think that all depends just on how steady your hand is. So I can show you. Maybe the refresh rate isn't exactly what we'd like it to be, but if you know how to keep a steady hand, it doesn't look all that bad. See, there we are. I mean, I can understand if you're sitting there walking like this and you're letting your footfalls really disturb the recording. You're certainly going to get quite a bit of jitteriness, and I wouldn't really put that up to the phone's fault, but rather that you should just treat it more as a camera device. So if you tell me that this is not a passable video camera, then I'm just going to look at you and think that there's entirely something wrong with you. This is a detailed macro focus, kind of showing how leather actually looks. It's quite in shadow, and it actually does really nice. This is another macro focus that shows how the camera does with complicated colors such as red. You can see it still does pretty sharp and is able to evaluate between the different shades of the red, so it's not too bad. This is outside in favorable conditions. It shows quite a bit of detail. Funny, this is your 5 megapixel camera, and look, it's zooming in and it's still quite effective in showing the detail. Here's another picture taken without flash, and this is actually in a little bit lower lighting. Not too bad though. You can see that it still has quite a bit of definition. This is after I've actually zoomed in a bit, and it's just great. Alrighty, this is a picture that shows how the camera handles ambient light, such as from outside shining on the Christmas tree. You can see that the colors are a little bit washed out, so it doesn't quite know how to handle this situation. So this is a picture done with a full Ken Burns effect. It's actually complete pitch black in this picture, and the only thing giving light is the flash. So this is really not that bad. Okay, so I have both my phones here. This is my previous Droid Bionic and the Galaxy Nexus here. And you're really looking at the size differences, and just the screen is massive. And one thing I just noticed is that I was saying that the brightness on the screen is, I really like that. This is a lot more vibrant, of course, but this is an incredibly, incredibly bright screen, and I wish they were able to do that with this particular display. So, let's see if I can show you Pentile, hopefully. Okay, so Pentile displays, you can see a lot of the pixel aliasing, and also you can see that the edges are more jagged looking. Pretty much everything looks this way. It's very grainy, very hatchy. And so that is a Pentile display. This is also a Pentile display, but since it's such high resolution, you really can't see the same effect, although you can around this ring button here. Whoop. But it's really not all that bad. A lot of the times I don't see any pixels whatsoever. And then there are some things like fine lines that you can see a little bit of that pixeling in there, but it's really not bad. So I am actually quite satisfied with the screen. Another thing I noticed on this phone is that when you turn down the display all the way, not only is this display not as bright as a lot of phones I've seen, especially when compared to the Bionic, but you start to see a very, I'm going to say, paperiness to the screen. So let's see. This is under a new message, under my messenger, and it's probably be really hard to pick up, but you'll see that it's dark and there's a lot of graininess. So it looks very similar to what a Kindle screen looks like. I think that that's the easiest way to represent it, is that it really does look like a Kindle screen. Not a color Kindle screen, but just the regular matte, the LCDs that look a lot like paper. So yeah, it's kind of odd, but as soon as you turn up the brightness again, this is an easy way to get to settings. Just pull down the menu and tap on that there. Display, brightness. Let's put it about, I've noticed that it has also issues registering taps. I don't know if that's me or the system. But anyway, let's go back to what we were looking at a second ago. Pork chops for dinner, nice. So, new message, push down. And you can see there that now the screen is nice and bright. It looks kind of a yellowish white. But I don't see that paperiness that I was seeing a second ago. So, I think that's quite odd. So I'm going to say also that live wallpapers look fantastic. But the only thing is that they're not optimized yet for ice cream sandwich. So you're going to get a little bit of lag and jitteriness, which I'm not liking too much. But again, this is a new operating system, and there's a lot of development to happen and to progress, so I'm not too worried about it. I just, for now, will turn off the live wallpapers, not to mention I'm sure that it also kills your battery life like nothing else. Alright, let's talk battery life. So this is a 4G phone, and as expected, it's not going to hold a charge as well as a 3G phone. This is a very thin profile phone, but shockingly, they've been able to fit in a 1,850 milliamp hour battery. It lasts, I was clocking in about 4 hours and 15 minutes. Now the battery hasn't been fully exercised, so I'm sure that it should last a little over 5 hours. And that's with heavy usage. So I'm hoping that since this is a Nexus phone, that Google will be rolling out several optimizations to help with the antenna in terms of not only keeping a better signal, but maybe lower consumption, I'd hope, with the battery, because I know it's that 4G. And my phone has been really fluctuating between 4G and 3G. I ended up turning the LTE off because it is such a battery hog at this moment. And I'll just say about the antenna is that I have the Bionic as well, and the Bionic does a much better job. And Motorola hardware in general does a much better job than Samsung at keeping a signal, so that is a bit of a bummer. Although since this is a Nexus phone, as I was saying, I have a lot of confidence that there'll be a lot of updates, so I'm just going to wait it out and, be hopeful. So that's all I have to say at the moment about the battery, is that just be forewarned that you are going to want an extended battery, or you're going to need to be next to a wall charger at any time during the day, because it will last you about 5 hours, and that is really it. So with 3G off, I'm actually getting a lot better battery life. Still not very good, but it's been about, you can see that, an hour and 25 minutes, and it's at a 77 battery life. And I have been using it quite a bit for this review, going outside, taking video, doing macro video. So, it's to be expected, and I would just really get a higher capacity battery. Alright, so here we've got both of the batteries. One is the 2,100 milliamp hour battery. This is the extended battery, and I can show you next to the stock battery, which is only 1,850 milliamp hours, that it really is not much thicker. You can tell that, I don't know if you can even really tell as I'm holding them here, but it doesn't add, let's see, there we go. You can see just by looking at the contacts that it's not much thicker, and it really doesn't grant you all that much battery life. I would say that if you're at 0%, you would be at 13 or 15% instead, so it's a fail either way. So I'm going to return the battery because it's full priced at $46, I think, so that's really awful. In the phone itself, it sticks out quite a bit, so don't be expecting to use your original cover, because if you do, I've heard people actually using it with the original cover, but it doesn't snap in place all the way, and it gives it a nice bulge, and I don't want to ruin the cover, so I would just use the new cover that they give you along with that battery. So it's just a matter of popping it in. Give me 1 second. So if money is no object to you and you absolutely need a little bit more of a battery, that extra 15% just to get you through the workday or at school or whatever, you can see that it's not bad. It really doesn't make much difference. So the battery cover, I wanted to talk a bit about that. Samsung is absolutely famous for making these flimsy little covers that look like you can just bend and break them, and that these little tabs that they have here are just going to break off, or possibly that it's going to ruin the internals of the phone here. But I'm going to show you what I recommend in terms of that, and I'm not worried at all that that's going to happen. So best way, start like this, bottom, hold to the top, and then hold up, and with equal pressure, start from these two tabs to the center. Equal pressure. Use 2 thumbs for equal pressure, done. So there you go. That was not something that would cause any type of issue, no breaking, no problem. I can definitely say that those of you who use your phone for mostly internet browsing will be very pleased with the Galaxy Nexus. Now, what's really nice is that it's ice cream sandwich, and of course that's the newest 4.0 Android operating system. So if you are on Google or you're on any type of website that is favoring the mobile site, you can go up under your settings here, which is now your menu button because it no longer has it at the bottom. It says request desktop site, and that will remember that for you. So anytime that you now use the phone, you can see that it's now defaulting to Google as a desktop browser rather than the mobile version. And you're always free to go in under and select that off if it is a defaulted desktop site instead of the mobile version, if should you want to change it backward. So that is a really good feature. Now I really do like as well that you have much more tabs. I believe you can have up to 16 tabs, as before it was a lot less than that, and that was quite annoying on my Bionic, that I would always be requested to shut down window because you have too many open. So it's awesome. Ice cream sandwich is really a great move forward, and it makes the system so much easier to use and a lot nicer. So the next thing I want to talk about is actually system volume, especially if people have expressed concerns in terms of the speakerphone quality and some of the ringtones being a little bit too quiet. So it's been a fear that of missing calls and just having a problem hearing it in general. So I'm just going to show you what's realistic in terms of using it on the phone. So let's see. I can show you some of the system ringtones. I think part of the problem is that they haven't chosen very loud ringtones for in part on some of this. I don't think it's really the system itself. You're not going to hear that. I mean, come on, be realistic. Or that. What is that? Okay, well, whatever. I use Zedge because it's the more intelligent thing to do. And listen to Carol of the Bells. I mean, it sounds perfectly fine to me. That's plenty loud. I don't know how I could possibly miss that. You know, so really, it has to do with what type of system tone you pick. But a lot of the tones, you know, maybe hopefully with a firmware update, they'll fix some of the system volumes because you can hardly hear some of the system presses as well. So I realize that's a problem, not necessarily with the actual hardware of the phone, but maybe just the firmware. So also, speakerphone quality. I found it to be fantastic. I really don't see an issue. So let's see if I can, let's try voicemail.
Your password. I'm sorry, that is not the correct password. Please re-enter your the wrong mailbox number and would like to exit the system. Please press star. Goodbye.
That's plenty loud. So it's, I don't know what people are gawking about and what they're saying exactly, but it's plenty loud. The voice quality on the phone is just fine to me. If you're in a, you know, a decent coverage area, it's not too bad. So I wouldn't let people telling you that the volume of the phone is to be something to deter your choice from picking this phone, because it's just fine and comparable even to the Bionic, which is fantastically loud, so just go for it. One thing that needs to be noted about the Galaxy Nexus phone is that it doesn't include a mountable USB storage, as there is no Microsd card, so you can't possibly mount this. What it does use is MTP technology, which is Media Transfer Protocol. So if you are on a Windows computer, you can just plug it in. You shouldn't have too many problems. But on a Mac, you need to use the program that's called Android File Transfer. And this way you can drag and drop data from your phone onto the computer and vice versa. The only thing is that you actually can't open files from here. You have to first drag it onto your computer in order to view the files, which is a bit annoying. That, and it's just so slow to transfer information. So that is something to keep in mind when you are talking about getting a Galaxy Nexus, because if you can't mount the USB storage, you're not going to be able to use it very quickly whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this phone meets your wildest expectations. I know that it's a early release type thing going on right now where there's a lot of things that need to be updated, but the great thing is that it's going to be updated, so I'm not too worried about the little imperfections that I've been talking about because it's not really going to matter at all in the end with the Nexus phone. So I really wouldn't worry. It'll be a fantastic phone for several years ahead, and I really like it, and I'm sure you guys will come to love it as well, so that's all I got to say. Thank you guys for watching my supreme nerdiness.